back with match number 5 with Boros Prowess with Dreadhorde Arcanist by Mac. Let's see here. Hand seems fine. One drop, one drop, one drop. Nice some spells to follow it up. Alright. So Spire Bluff can now go. Interesting. Okay, so Storm perhaps. Alright, this might be lethal. The white source, we can end this game. Alright, so lava darts are relatively useless against their stuff. Path and Tormod's Crypt are the cards I'd most likely want. Bring in a couple of paths, that way we have some outs to turn 2 dork if we don't have a kill lined up. And trim a Lutz on the draw. Seems like a target that could easily remain pretty well. Luris. Interesting hand. Against a 6. It's just a bolt target more than anything else. Problem is, really need to hit a friggin' land drop. Yeah, that's fine, whatever. This was literally the bait spell. Okay, brawl, sure. So, I suppose if they have the God Hand, they could go off next turn, so that maybe that was a reason to play Tormod's Crypt this turn. But... Well... Just get in for 2 and hold up path here. Get in for 4, I mean. Sure. 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 Alright, inner scoops. Although they ironically weren't... Oh, I guess we wouldn't actually have drawn these cards because we were going to floop a land there. But opponent figures we had spells in our hand and they were dead. So, back in a sec with the wrap-up. Alright, we're back for the wrap-up with Boros Luminancer with Dreadhorde Arcanist as opposed to Kiln Fiend or Abbot of Carol Keep. So, my initial thoughts with this deck, this is a much cleaner version, obviously, emphasizing the one-drop spells, so you can flash it back with Dreadhorde Arcanist, no Boros Charms, etc. I still think the best draws of this deck still involve, the one-drop into one-drop, one-drop. Very hard for opponents to interact with that profitably. We did run into a lot of more difficult matchups. One of the things when we did the 5-0 with the Kiln Fiend version, we ran into a lot of uninteractive decks and we just simply out-goldfished them. The next league when we ran into like 4 interactive decks, we went 3-1. The problem, and all credit to Mac, he had a great couple of weekends. He had a 5-0 league, he had a top 2 finish in a challenge, he had a top 4 finish in a Pt.5. It's hard to argue with the pedigree of Dreadhorde Arcanist, but, Kiln Fiend just threatens to kill you. And the one thing that differentiated the version that I'd been playing from a lot of the versions that most people were playing is mine was a little bit more combo focused. You're not going to outgrind the grind decks. You're not going to outgrind Jund Death Shadow or Jund midrange or, Bogles is a difficult matchup. You generally win those matchups by just like out goldfishing them, and that's fine. the variant we were playing, we had the couple of gut shots, the lava darts, the crash throughs, just a lot more free spells. We had the killing fiends, the layup stages. The curve was very similar, but every threat had to be answered. Whereas Dreadhorde Arcanist, like, don't get me wrong, it's a solid card, but I think it's better in a Thoughtseize Inquisition deck. Gives you a little bit of grinding power, don't get me wrong there, but I don't really think that Boros Prowess is the best grinding deck. Sure, you have Luris, sure you can have a Bauble package if you want to. Luminancer. The problem with Luminancer is the more lava darts, the more run and sixes played, the worse this card is. It's still an excellent card on turn 1 that threatens to kill on turn 3, turn 2 sometimes with the right draws. But, I don't know how I feel about Arcanist. The Baubles, I don't have enough experience with this particular build. Obviously, it's a Nombo with Luminancer, be a Nombo with Killing Fiend as well. It does give Luris a little bit more utility than it did in some of the other matchups. I think I definitely misplayed as far as like evaluating, should I be drawing cards, should I be putting creatures back into play with some of the turns, especially like against Jund midrange, where I had Luris in play for multiple turns. Maybe I should have been putting more threats into play as opposed to drawing more cards. One thing this deck does win from is an overwhelming board position, usually 2 or 3 prowess creatures, chaining a bunch of spells, killing your opponent even through blockers sometimes. We've done that. Did that against Storm, did that against a couple other decks. I think we even did it against Bogle's, the one game we won in that matchup. It's just really hard. This is one of those decks that I have said that as the format gets more interactive and grindy, this version gets worse. I think this version is better in a goldfishing meta. It can kind of outrace Dredge, because Dredge doesn't do a ton of interacting before like turn 3. It can outrace like Amulet Titan. It can outrace like Storm. It can even to a certain extent outrace Bogles, at least with the Killing Fiend version that we were playing. Arcanist, the 4th layup stage, does add a bit of a grindier element to the deck. Maybe Mac was able to leverage that a little bit better than I was. That might come down to preferences and play styles a little bit. I tend to be a little bit more aggressive. He tends to be someone who can play a lot of more decks more fluidly. He's pretty fluent in Legacy, pretty fluent in Modern. I think the first big match I've ever played against him was like Burn versus Dimir Fae in Dimir Fairies in Modern. So he's definitely a person that has a wide range of decks. I know he plays Burn sometimes. He plays Humans. He definitely plays a lot of Delver and Legacy. He's played some Vintage, so he has a lot wider range than maybe I do as a player. But and he might have played a little bit more with Dreadhorde Arcanist and something like Legacy, so may have a little more experience with the card than I do to evaluate it properly. But I would definitely need to play with it more, but not hugely one way or the other results in these games. It died a lot. It flashed back some spells, but then it just died in combat. It's a tricky card to evaluate when there's only 2 of them. Maybe I'd have to jam 4 into a list to see what happens. But overall, obviously not the best of results. We did beat Blue-Red Control because our opponent screwed up a little bit in game number 3. We did beat Storm. We lost to Jund, or 4-color Shadow and Jund midrange, and then lost kind of a barn burner to Bogles. So hard to evaluate this build of the deck from that, but definitely an interesting take and something we might revisit in the future if more people are interested in seeing Dreadhorde Arcanist in Modern in Boros Prowess. So hope to see you in the next video.